if I didn't do a modification or two, but because I mean, some of us, we have to be real precise, and absolutely I can post the recipe and it is pretty precise if you want to. But if you're like me, I always ad lib a little something. I learned that from my husband. He always does that because you'll never get two things alike. There's always some little spice or thing in there. Well, here, let me turn this down so you can see my working space here. Well, I want to start. Last week I talked about our wasn't it last week? I think I did tuna. I think what did I do? I don't know, but I did a couple of demos on these last week online because they are such an integral part of my kitchen. I just love these supersonics. They're the best choppers ever. And if I were just doing a little bit of garlic, I would only use the small one. If I were just doing a little piece of onion, I would use the medium one because that works just fine. I have all three. This is a great size for someone who lives alone because it does give you a little bit of extra room in there. So you can make a smoothie in here so easily by just using frozen fruit and chop it up really well, and then you add the liquid or whatever, whether you use juice or what have you to go in here, you add that and then change out using your paddle. And because of the way it's shaped, I don't know if that shows it off very well, because of the way it's shaped, when you put that in and start pulling it, it adds a lot of loft. So there'll be a lot of, it makes it very fluffy and mixes it really, really well. It takes all those lumps out and everything. So you'll have a smooth smoothie. So that's what we'll do. Well, tonight, not only do I have, and I didn't want you to have to watch me, I'm going to use my supersonic large, maxi, big, gigantic, the best of all of them. And this too works same principles as the small one. This is not the star of the show, but I just always have to talk about it because I'll use it so much. And it does come with a funnel. So if you're making something like a whipped cream or a salad dressing or something that at the end you need to add a little bit of flavoring or oil or whatever, I don't know that you can see them, but there are actually measuring lines in here so that you can fill it up and to whatever you need. And then at the end of your recipe, it doesn't actually go down until you move it to the open position. When you move it into the open position, it drizzles down into your recipe so that you can be pulling it and it is incorporated beautifully. So just some of the things that Tupperware did to help us. And then of course, I love the fact that we have this little stopper here so that when you are doing things, wet things in here, you're not going to have it splash up through the hole. There's so many other features I can tell you about, but that's not the star of the show tonight. So I just have to talk about it because I love this thing. So tonight I am going to use the chopper blade. It is very, very sharp and works beautifully to chop whatever you put in there. Now, in my recipe here, the recipe only calls for onion and garlic, but I'm putting onion, garlic, and some green pepper because I think green pepper adds a little bit of extra fun to this recipe. I'm going to chop it up well, but I think that's 4 or 5 chops, and they're ready to go in my recipe. So I'll put that over here. Oh my goodness, I wish you could smell that green pepper. It's just wonderful. Now we're going to use the hello, Linda. We're going to be using the pressure cooker, our microwave pressure cooker. Amazing piece of equipment. It's really phenomenal. If you ever had witnessed your mother or your grandmother using a pressure cooker in the way back in the olden days, like I did, I remember my mother having cabbage all over the ceiling because she had improperly put the valve in on her pressure cooker on the stove. But this all works. This has so many safety features on it. that isn't going to happen to you. The first safety feature is this little arm. It's not a handle. It truly is a little arm that locks down the top to the actual base of the pressure cooker. And it also covers a little hole. I don't know that you can see it right here. And this little hole will release the pressure. So if you had a problem, I mean, this thing would fly off and release the pressure. So you wouldn't have you wouldn't have your cabbage on the ceiling. Also, another relief valve is located here. And this valve is an indicator valve. It too will release pressure. But when this valve is in the up position, up like, I don't know, you can't tell that it's up, but when it's in the up position, you know that there is pressure in your pressure cooker. And so it's not time to take off the top. You need to let it rest until this valve is seated again, and it means the pressure is off and it's okay to open it up. Also, you don't just put the top on, it actually sits perfectly on the top. It screws on. It has these little things on the inside here, these grippers that will lock the top to the bottom. So, and if all else fails, there is this great little gasket inside, and when the pressure gets too great, it has a problem, there's a little notch in the gasket that will cause it to fold over and to come out, and then the pressure will be released all around the edges. So there's so many fail safes to make this pressure cooker the perfect use in your kitchen, something not to be afraid of, but truly an extension of your cookware. And it has two fill levels in here, a minimum amount of water, and a maximum amount, or liquid. You have either one. You need more. You need at least this much, but not more than this. And if you follow those simple rules, then whatever you put in here is going to come out exactly like you hope. Well, I'm going to start out because like I said, this is a quick, easy recipe. If you have all the things for this, which I always do in my house, I can't imagine not having everything I needed for this recipe. So start out with some hamburger, and we had stored some last week. So we had something else. We used half of it tonight for dinner, and then I'm going to use this other half tonight. So I put it in here. That's about a pound of hamburger, and I'm going to use my hand to mash it up really well so that I make the pieces a little bit smaller. And that's just my preference. You don't even have to do that, because when it comes out, your hamburger is going to be completely cooked anyway. So you can mash it up on the other side of this, but I just choose to do it this way. And again, like I say, everybody has their way that they enjoy doing it and make it work for them. And this is just something that I like to do. Okay, so my hamburger's in there and it's all mashed up. The recipe calls for the onion and the green pepper and the garlic. So, well, not the green pepper, but all of that. So I'm going to put that in there and scrape this out. And this can actually go in your dishwasher, but I'll tell you, I better not find mine because I use mine so much. I do not want to find it in the dishwasher. As you can tell, I have a love affair with my supersonic there. Okay, so now here we go. We have all of that in there. And the recipe also calls for a teaspoon of our Italian seasoning blend, which is great. Honestly, I don't know. It's just me. I don't think a teaspoon's enough. I kind of like to do a little bit of extra, but like I said, this is my recipe. We're going to eat it. That's the way I will do it, is I'm going to add a little bit extra in there. And of course, because we're talking about ground meat, you're going to need a little bit of salt because the ground meat really needs that. Okay, so a little bit of salt put in there. And it calls for 1 can of bouillon, or beef stock. Now, I did not have a can, but I know each can is 14 ounce, and I had some Better Than Bouillon, which is something I know Judy loves. She turned me on to this. So I made it up earlier, and I have 14 ounces here in my micro pitcher. So I'm going to pour that in. And last but not least, you use, oh, no, that's not true. How about some pasta? If you're going to make one pot pasta, it'd be good to have some pasta in there. Now, the recipe calls for penne, which, okay, all right. I mean, we can do penne, but I don't think it's nearly as fun as shells. Shells are my favorite. Okay, and again, I'm going to toss in a couple of extras. Yeah, there you go. That's good. Love a little bit of extra. And that's another reason too why the salt is so helpful, because your pasta will absorb a lot of that. And then finally, after your pasta, then you need a jar of spaghetti sauce. Now, you can use whatever your family likes, what your favorite is, just the whole thing. I don't know how much easier it could be. But there you go. Let me get my, I forgot to put out my spoon, my favorite spoon here. This thing is the best. If you don't have one of those, you should definitely get it. That's in our, so we're going to stir the whole mess up just like this. And like I say, now that I chunked up all of that ground meat, it really incorporates well with the things that I put, the other ingredients in the recipe. You don't have to chop, but it's certainly a preference. Some people prefer to wait till it's completely done and then chop it up when it comes out, but that's certainly a preference. And voila, there you have it. 1 pot pasta. Now I'm going to put this in my, I'll put the top one. I don't know, maybe you need to see me do that, because that might be important. So I'm going to line up the arrows, which are right here on the top. And once it's in place, I'll lock down the final valve cover here. And now it is ready to go in in my microwave. So I'm going to put it in for about 16 minutes and we're going to have dinner. So I don't know if you'd like to check back with me later. It'll be done, but whatever you want to do, there you have it. There's 1 pot pasta.
One
so
pot
easy.
pasta.